Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This is going to be a very useful webinar on ways to boost your company's use on SharePoint. My name is Gabriel Riera, and I'm a marketing specialist here at CRGroup. Okay, so a few housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll be sending it out to all the participants at the end of today. We welcome any questions that you may have, so if you have any, please type them into the Go webinar panel, and we'll do our best to get to them at the end of the presentation. And today's discussion is specific to SharePoint Online, so if you're using an on-premise version, some of the defaults we'll go over may be a little different. So all right, well, without delay, I'm happy to introduce to you our presenter today. Elizabeth Brown is one of CRGroup's senior SharePoint specialists, and she works with clients to set up, configure, upgrade, and customize their SharePoint system. She has over 10 years of experience working in IT, focusing on system analysis, application development, and support. And in addition to SharePoint and Dynamics CRM, she has extensive experience with web-based technology and SQL databases. So, all right, over to you, Elizabeth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for joining us today. So the agenda today is, as we said, this is going to be an intro to SharePoint Online. We noticed that some of the people who signed up are new to SharePoint. So we're talking about ways to boost SharePoint. So we're going to talk about co-authoring, version and other access controls, how you can set up a SharePoint folder structure that works for your company, how to use metadata to enable better searching and filtering, sorting data, some new unique features in SharePoint Online for building a team page, different ways you can share SharePoint, especially if you want to share with external users who aren't members of your company, and we've discussed some ways to boost adoption. If you have any questions, you can enter them throughout. There's a little questions option, and we will answer questions at the end. So first we're going to talk about what is SharePoint. So SharePoint is a business collaboration tool. So it allows you to manage documents. It allows you to build portals, intranets. It allows you to collaborate and work together. And it allows you to automate some of your business processes. And it's also included with most Office 365 subscriptions. So if you're using Outlook Online, depending on your subscription, you might actually have SharePoint Online as part of that subscription. So when you first start setting up your SharePoint, you're going to have all your different users who are going to be using it. And then what you want to do is you want to kind of combine those users into a single group or a role and say, what different groups do we have in the access? What roles are we going to have? So if you're talking about your HR documents, you're probably going to say, well, we have about 3, 4, 5 people who are going to actually write and maintain these documents. And then everyone else is going to want to see them. Maybe you'll have a sales team, so you'll have some people who need to collaborate on sales documents to work together on that. So you can also remember that the roles aren't necessarily exclusive, especially at CRGroup, because we have so many different divisions. We have a consulting division, we have a GP division, but we'll have people who do stuff for GP and we'll have people who do stuff for consulting, so they'll end up in both groups. So people can be in multiple groups once you've defined them. And then you define what items they need access to, which sites they're going to see, and then what level of access they're going to see, whether they just need to see the items, whether they need to edit the items, whether they might need to have special permissions. You can set designs so that people have a little bit extra site permissions as well. We're going to show you sort of why you might be using it. So some of the things is like an HR policy document, sort of a sales proposal. Sales proposal, you can have multiple people working on it. You just kind of keep the versions as you go, where a policy document you might want to have much more strict, sort of let's review changes, we'll have draft changes, we'll have an actual pending changes. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So so we have a SharePoint site here, and so you can see there's just basically sort of a plain vanilla site with sort of the heading here. There's not very much on the site. And then there's 2 subsites. There's an HR subsite, which I'll just click to, And so then you can see there's some policy documents in here, and then there's a sales site over here, where again there's just some documents with some folders, and if you go in there you can see the different sort of folders in there. Now because I'm logged in, you can see here there's like the new, so I can add in a new document, and if I go over to HR, back over here, you can see I can still see the new and the upload. Now I'm going to switch browsers here, and so this is the same site, but I'm logged in as a different user, and so because this user is just a member of the sales team, but isn't a member of the HR team, when I come into this HR site, you can see I can see these documents, but I don't actually have any ability to add them here. Those controls are missing. So you can see it's just security trimmed. So I can't actually go in. I can go in and look at all these documents, but I can't make any changes to them. So I'm going to go into sales. And so here's the proposal document. So I just want to click on it and start sort of, it opens up, and then you see over here I can actually just go and edit it. So I'm just going to edit in the browser quickly for this. I'm just going to add some. And so then you can see as I'm doing that, if you look up on the top bar, you see it's actually saving. So just by writing it, it will automatically save it. And now if I go back and I'm in this user, and I'm also editing the document, and then you can see I'm also getting a notification that someone else is editing this document, so it's not just me. And if I scroll down here, I can see that, hey, this is a change that they made right there. So if you're both working on the document, then it allows like a very collaborative experience because two people can edit the document at the same time. You can see what the other person's change is. And so now I'm just going to go back out of this. And if I go to this document, I can go look at the version. So if I go here, and then I can get the menu to come up. Menu. There you are, just waiting for it. And then you can click on the version history, and the patience is required with SharePoint sometimes. But you can see that there's a new version created here. So each time we save it, it's just going to create a new major version. We can go back and say, I want to restore a version, I want to look at a version. You can get rid of them if you want to. So it's very quick and easy. This is just sort of the way SharePoint's set up out of the box, that you can just come in and edit, co-author, and it will create a version each time you save it. So now I'm going to go back to the sales, because, sorry, to HR. So in HR we have policy documents, and we don't want people just to come in and edit them. We want them to be more constrained and controlled, right? But because I am able to come in and edit them, so this is just a sample document with some sample text. So then you can see it automatically saves it for me. And now if I go back to HR, if I click over here on this little eye, this brings up the info panel, and then that will tell me the information about the file. So if I go and see the version history, you can see that it has version 1 here, and then I just created a new version, but that's a draft version. So it's a 1.1, and that's a minor version. And if I come back in as my sort of regular non-HR user, and I switch over to the HR site, and I go and look at this health policy, I've actually only seen the published version, so I'm not going to see those draft changes. So it allows you to work on your documents in one place. You don't have to say, oh, we need to update this policy, we need to move it somewhere else, and then when we finish it and we finalize it, we're going to publish it here. You can actually just have it set up in the library, and only the people who can approve the changes, the people who can make the changes, can come in and see those draft edits, those draft changes, and the other users aren't aware of it until you actually go through and publish it, which I'll just walk through right now. So going back, so we've got our little add text there, and then just close out of version history. So basically, I just come here and click on these, and I go into more, and then I can publish it. And then you just go, okay. And so then what that's going to do is it actually changes the status to pending. And then if you're a user who has approval rights, you can come in and actually go in and look at the change and then come here and click on the more and say, yes, I want to approve these changes. And so when I click approve, then if I click here and I go back to the version control, you will see that it's actually that little draft version has become a major version because it's been published and approved. And if I switch back to my non-HR staff user and I go in and click add this document, you can see that the change has been added there. And so now I can actually see that change because it's been published. So another thing is if I'm in this document library and I click new, then I can have an option just to add a Word document that way, and it will come up with the Office Online, and it will allow me to create a new document this way. So if I want to add a new document, I can just start typing, and then it will actually save it for me, and it's just going to call it document 1. So you can see it's automatically saving it up there. When it finishes saving, then I can actually come up here and change the name to, and then it will actually just rename that document based on what I've just typed up there. So now it's just been added. The other thing is if you are using Word, you have Office 2016 installed, you can actually, from a new document here, type correctly there, you can actually go here and you can choose to save it. So you just have to pick the corporate sort of site here, and then you can actually save it to, come on, it's actually probably going to prompt me to log in. Yeah. Oh, we just find it, okay. And so I can just select the document library and then just save it up there. So you can also save directly from Word, because I know that sometimes people find that when they're working with the document, they just open up Word and then they want to save it, and they find it's difficult to save to SharePoint, but you can actually just select it from a web location and save directly to SharePoint. So we're going to talk a little bit about a folder structure that works for your company, and a little bit about metadata. So a lot of times, especially if you're migrating from a file share, people are very, very used to having files and folders, and they like files and folders, and metadata is a really new concept for them, and they find that applying metadata and using metadata is confusing. They don't like change. I guess it basically boils down to people don't like change. But so this is a way, what we're going to show here is a way that you allow for the use of folders, but you still allow the use of metadata. So we're just going to set things up for success. People can still use SharePoint the way they kind of used to using it with folders, but you're still going to get all the metadata that works for you. So what is metadata? So metadata is data about a document. So I mean, if you've ever taken a picture with your phone and you look at the picture, you can see it says, oh, this is like the location where the picture was taken. Here's the date and time, and so that's metadata. That's information about the file. So in SharePoint, by default, you're going to have created on, created by, modified by. You can also add a whole bunch of custom metadata. So you can say, I want to have a year field and store what year this document relates to, or you can have a client field, or a type document type field where you're saying this is a proposal, this is an RFP. So you can specify the different types of documents that way. And so why would you want to use metadata? It helps with searching. It gives you better search results because you're searching on the metadata and not just the document title and the document content. You actually can search on metadata. And you can also use it for filtering, and so you can find your data really easily. So we're going to go and take a look. So on our top site here, go all the way up, we set up this image library. And so the user who set this up, she really liked folders. Sometimes you get users who just really do. And so she's created a folder for each year, and she's put inside the folder, she's got the different sort of events. Okay, here's the client appreciation, and here's some images associated with that. So this is good, but now what happens is, if you're saying, okay, well, wouldn't it be really nice for our next client appreciation event that we can go back through and say, let's get the pictures from 2012 and get some from 2013. So we want to have pictures from all these different years. So in order to do it, I have to go here, and then I have to go back, and then I have to go to 2013, and then I have to go in here. So there's a lot of back and forth, and I can't just see everything at once. So that's where having the folders is kind of more work, because you're switching back and forth. But because this is SharePoint, and we set it up with a folder structure so that the users are happy, they put their images in the folders, and they don't have to worry about anything, we can also still apply metadata. So we've created this other view, which is just a view of all the items without any of the folders. So it's just going to show you all the items, and just regardless of where the folders is. And then you see there's just a little range icon here. So I can click on that, and then it's showing me the different columns associated with this library. And so I have this purpose metadata field here, and I can select filter by. And so I'm going to select client appreciation and click apply. And now that's going to filter it by client appreciation. It's just going to show me all the images that are tagged with that metadata tag. And then if I want to, I can also filter it more. I can say I want to, or I could actually just say, let me group it by year here. And so then I can see here are the ones that are from 2014 that are tagged with client appreciation. Here's the ones from 2011. And then there's 2012 down here. So I can just scroll through and very quickly see all the different data that's tagged with these different metadata types. You can also see that there's some filters that are provided by SharePoint. So it's giving me a modified filtered. So when it was modified, I added all these files today, so this one's not so useful. But there's also a type, whether I want to have a JPEG or I want to have a video. And so then I can quite also just sort of say, okay, only show me these 3 years, and then it's just going to filter it for me. So now that you've seen this, so how did we set this up? So basically, when we came in here and we just created a folder, so I'm going to create a new folder called Christmas, like that. So that's pretty straightforward how you create the folder. Now what we do to set this up, we go into the library settings. We just click on the dial and go to library settings. And then you see over here it says column default value settings. So we're going to just select that. And then basically we just scroll down here. That's funny. And then we can actually just select that new folder I created, and then just come in here and set the value that we want. We're going to say, use this default value for this metadata field. So for the purpose one, set it to this. And so on the folder for 2018, we have, this is the year, and we're going to set it to this value. So now that if I go back to the library here, and so now I just want to add some items to this folder. So I'm just going to drag and drop the cat. You can also select multiples and just drag them up. And now, so I put that item here, and because I put the default tags on that folder, what that means is if I go back to the flat view and I start filtering again, so So then you see it filters that, and it just gives me that one image for 2018. And all you have to do then is just add the items to the folders, and then they automatically have the metadata applied to them based on the folder settings. This configuration setting is very useful. If you do have a lot of folders, it is a manual process because you have to set each value automatically on each folder. So you have to go through and say this folder, this folder, this folder, set these metadata fields, and you do have to add the metadata fields. However, it can be automated. You can write a script to just automate it for it. There is a blog post on our website about how to do that. However, if you'd like some help about it or help about determining what metadata you want, just contact us and we'll be very happy to help you. So now we're going to talk about the modern team pages, or as they're called here, killer team page. So basically, if you have edit permissions, you can create a team page. It's a good opportunity to get people into SharePoint, start using SharePoint. It helps get people using it. It makes it easier to adopt it. You can just sort of use it to promote events. And it's also enabled for mobile access, so you can very easily look at these modern page layouts on a mobile device. So if you want to come in with your smartphone and you want to get to this page, it will still look great, and you don't have to do anything. You just add the page, and everything is taken care of for you automatically. So we're going to home. So how do you add it? You basically just go here and you go new. And I want to add a new news post, and so that's adding this page here. I want to put it about, we have a new bowling night planned. And so I want to change this background here, so I want to make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm just going to go here and say bowling. This one looks good, so I'll just take that image. And then basically I can just sort of drag it and say, do I want more of the pins? Do I want more of the balls? Let's put it up here more towards the pins like that. And so that's created the header there. So I'm going to click here because I want to add some content. So I'm going to add some text to this page. So I'm just going to start talking about it. CRGroup. And then I can just type in, and then I can make this the header, so I can make it bigger, can make it bold, I can italicize it, that's a little over the top, so we'll just go back to making it a header. And I can add some more text here, join us. So add in different text there. You can do things like bulleting lists. You can add hyperlinks. So now I'm going to select here. So I want to tell people where it is. So I scroll down and add the Bing map. And then I just enter in the location. So now I've got that. If I want to, I can add another item down here. So let's just save this. I think it's supposed to come back out. So you see I've just quickly added the header here. I've added in some text about it. I've added the location map, which will have a pin, which will show up in a second. So this is the new page here. Because it's using the modern page layout, so you see if I just minimize it and then scroll across, it will automatically just keep resizing it for us so that you don't have to do anything. So if you come in on a mobile screen and it's got that dimension, it just automatically will still look nice. They're not having to scroll over really far to the right to try and get all the text. It just automatically resizes it and makes it fit to the screen. Go back into edit mode. There, so now the pin showed up. So you can see it has a little pin there. And so then if I wanted to add an image too, I can come in here and just pick an image that's already uploaded. And then that will just add it to the page as well. So that kind of expands it a lot. So once I'm done with this, I can just hit publish, and then that's going to make it visible for everyone to see. And then if I want more people to see what's going on, oh, and then it's asking me my survey about the publishing it. So now that I've got it back, so here's my page and it's been published, that means everyone can see it. Then I can come here on the page and select promote. And then basically I can say I want to add it to navigation. It's posted as news, which I'll show you in just 1 second. And I can also choose to email it to people. And so you can see if I go over here, now it's actually been added to the navigation. So if I'm on the home page, then I can click here on bowling night and it will show up automatically. The other thing that happens too is if people are coming into this Office 365 landing page, and so they're here, and then they're just clicking on SharePoint, and then this is opening the SharePoint sort of landing page, then it will actually show up here on the news from site. So it hasn't quite yet, so I'll just have to wait for a second. So that's the new sort of page layout. So you can see how it's fairly easy to add content, how you can, it's automatically going to be set up for mobile view, so it doesn't matter what device people are using to access it, what their screen resolution is, it's still going to look good. They're still going to be able to see it. And so if you just need to add a new announcements to the site, it's very easy. You can add images to it very easily. You can make it look nice. You can add parts very easily. You can put a whole bunch of different text. So it's a pretty straightforward, easy layout. So now we're going to talk about sharing SharePoint. So sharing and permissions are set at the administration level. So in the behind the scenes in the administration portal for SharePoint, the administrators can decide whether or not they're going to allow external sharing. And if they are allowing external sharing, whether people have to log into the site or whether or not they can get an anonymous link to a document. You can't allow anonymous access to the site. If people are coming into SharePoint and they want to see the whole site, so they're going to see all those pages, they're going to see all the documents in the libraries, then they need to log in. If you just want to share a particular document, or if there's only like 1 or 2, then you can do what's called an anonymous access link. And so basically it's a link directly to the document. And users can then come in, you can set the level so they can just view the document, they can edit the document, you can put an expiry so that document link is only going to be good for a week, or maybe it's only going to be good for a month. And so for that month, they can come on, click that link, and get to that particular document. But it's only one document that they'll have anonymous access to. And all these settings are going to be controlled by the administrator. So the administrator can say, we're going to allow people to share with authenticated external users, or we're going to allow anonymous access links, and then they can also decide who's going to be allowed to do the sharing. So if you can't share externally, it's because it's not enabled for your application right now. So your SharePoint has just got it turned off. So you can invite external users if you have this enabled, where basically you just enter in their email address. They're going to get an invite email, and then they're going to be prompted to log in with either a live ID or an organizational account. But you can also create the anonymous sharing link. So as I mentioned, and the thing to be careful about with the anonymous sharing link is because you emailed it to that one person and they have that link, that person can then turn around and share that anonymous access link with another 1,000 people. So anyone who has access to that link will be able to edit the document. So it can potentially expand quite farther than that one recipient, because the recipient can share it with anyone they want to. And anyone with the link can get access to it. So we're just going to talk about how to do this now. Oh, right. We're going to talk to you about portals. So SharePoint is a portal tool. And so for today, we're just talking about how to share sites and documents. That's what we're talking about. But if you also have a more formal portal where members are signing up or clients are signing up, so you're having them sign up with this whole sign-up procedure, and then they're able to manage subscriptions, payments, resources, then that's more of a custom portal. You can use SharePoint for that, but it would require customization. It's not going to work like that out of the box. But if you want to know more about the power of custom portals for member managers, just feel free to contact us. So we'll just take a look at how we're going to share. I don't have many things open here. So basically, so here we are on our webinar site, and because I have permissions to share, you can turn this off, but by default people are able to share. You just click the share link here, and then you enter in the email address of the person that you want to share with. And then you can basically just say, yes, I want to send an email invitation, and then you select the permission levels as we talked about before. So you can say, I want them to be able to edit it, or I just want this user to be able to read it, and you click share, and then that's going to send an email invitation to the user. When the user gets the email invitation, they will say, click here to go join up to this site, and when they click there, they can join access. They can join the portal. Okay, come on. So that's shared it, and then the user is going to receive the email invitation, and then they can come in, choose an account, sign in, and they'll have access to this site. If, on the other hand, the user doesn't want to have to bother creating an account, they don't want to have to change, they don't want to have to come in and sign in, and it's only one document they want to have access to, or maybe 2 or 3, it's not that many, you can basically just go navigate to the documents you want to share, and then you can share that particular document. And so you can see anyone with a link can view or edit. So who would you like this link to work for? So anyone, that means it's anonymous. So then you can say only people who are members of this organization, which is Corporate Renaissance One in this particular instance. You can say only people who already have access, or specific people you're going to specify. So if you say anyone, that's going to just allow everyone to do it. You can say, I want them to be able to edit it, or no, I don't want them to be able to edit it. And then you can set this expiration date. So you can say, this link is only going to be good until the 10th. And then after that, the link isn't going to work anymore. And then when they click on it, they're just going to get an access denied. It's not going to bring them to the document anymore. If I click apply, so I can just copy the link here, or I can actually enter in an email and it will email it to directly. Or I can open Outlook and send it from Outlook. And so you can see that's sent just like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about getting your company on board. So adoption is one of the biggest challenges, because partly because SharePoint has so many different ways of doing things, and if people aren't sure about how things are supposed to work, if you set a library up with draft so drafts and versioning, and you need to approve the documents, and the user goes in and makes changes, and it's like, okay, well, I made all these changes, I'll update it, and then they send that link to another user who comes in and goes, I don't see any changes, because that user isn't allowed to see draft changes, and they can only see published changes, and then they're just confused. They're like, this isn't working. Why are we using this? So training is such a big part of it, that people know what they're using it. They understand the benefits of metadata. There's just so much training involved with how to actually use it and how you want your particular organization to use it. Because there's a lot of ways you can use SharePoint, but if you decide, okay, we are going to put HR policy documents here, and we are going to have an approval process, and only these users can see the draft changes, then that needs to make sure that that's readily available, so that the users who can go in there and make the draft changes don't go, oh, well, I need to make a draft change to this document. I'll download it to my C drive. I'll start making the changes here, and then I'm going to email it over there. And then eventually, when they decide on all the changes after emailing it back and forth, we've got all these copies and emails, and then they're going to upload it up there, and they say, okay, we've uploaded the new version, and no one's seeing it because what's going on, because it's just going to come in as a draft. So it is really important that people understand how SharePoint works and how to use it. People can often configure it badly as well, that the way the sites are set up, that you have to click here and then you go to this site, and it can be hard to know where to go. So talking about how the search features are set up, how the site layout is set up, like this is where I'm going to go do this. This is how we're going to do this. This is where we're going to put our documents. It can also be confusing for users if they say, oh, put your documents in SharePoint, and then they go to SharePoint and there's 20 different sites, and they're working on 3 different sites, and then there's 5 different libraries, and they actually don't know where to put my documents. Do I put it in this library? Do I put it over here? Should it go here? So it's just, a lot of it's just around the whole training and usability. This is where we're going to put our documents. We're going to go here. These are today's tips that should help, hopefully, with the setup and accessibility. Just top-down usage as well. If management says use SharePoint and then they're not using SharePoint, and people are like, well, if they can't be bothered to put their documents and they're just going to email me documents, why do I have to go and put my documents in SharePoint and email them a link? So making sure that the people who are sort of the SharePoint champions are also using it the way they say to use it really helps. It's more of a sort of do as I do, not a do as I say. Also, a really good thing to consider is feedback. If you just say, hey, this isn't working for us, like, can we change this? Make sure you're responsive to that, and that you are responsive to the feedback. Possibly it is really good feedback. It's like, hey, why don't we do this? And then it does make sense. Maybe it's just an issue of making sure that people understand why you're set it up this way. So all things to consider. You can read the full post at crgroup.com/blog.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth. We did get a couple questions throughout the presentation, and we'd like to go through those now. Yeah, so we had a question that came in, and it's more or less, are these demonstrations, were they being done on the cloud?
They are. This is done on SharePoint Online. It is being done on the cloud. The reason we're focusing on SharePoint Online right now is because a lot of people are signing up for Office 365 subscriptions because it gives you Word, it gives you Excel, it gives you Outlook, and so they're saying, well, we want to put our Outlook on up. And then once you've got Office 365, you've got SharePoint as well. And so then it's sort of a consideration, hey, maybe we should be using SharePoint because it's part of our subscription, so we have it. So maybe let's look into using it. I would say it really varies with the speed performance for the cloud. SharePoint on-premise can be, because you can sort of set the number of servers, you can actually say, well, we're going to dedicate 5 servers to this. So you can get quite fast, but then you do have to maintain 5 servers. I would say it's about the sort of, sorry, the question, is this the kind of speed performance we should expect in the cloud? I would say probably it can vary a little bit, though. Sometimes it's your computer as well that slows it down.
All right, so perfect. So there was another question that came in. Is I already have my file structure set up. Is there a way to mass update all of the data?
Yes. So what I'll do is I'll just actually show you the way of doing that. Here I'm in a folder where there's a couple of different documents. Basically, actually, sorry, I'm in the wrong view. That was on the page view. Let me just go to the actual library view. So basically, you see up here in the menu bar how there's this quick edit option. So I just select the quick edit, and then I just wait for the view to change. And then basically I can just come in here and I can say I want to just change that. And then you see there's like, it's maybe very hard to see, but it's highlighted and there's like a little dot here. Then I can just kind of drag it down like that. And so as long as you have them arranged so that you can just kind of select one item and then just kind of drag and drop down to all the other items, you can quite quickly change the metadata. The issue becomes is if you don't want to set, if you had like 10 files here and you didn't want to set that same value to all 10 files and you want to set them to different values, then you'd have to go through each one individually. It can be scripted. There's some third-party products that will help with that, but you can also write some like scripts to do it. So there's a number of ways to automate it if you can't just use the automatic sort of drag and drop to update metadata.
All right, perfect. And okay, so just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and it will be shared with everyone at the end of the day today. And okay, perfect. And there's another question here. Is there a way to come into a site and have a view of who has access to what?
So basically with SharePoint, you can kind of come in and you have this sort of site permissions view. And then it's showing you who the members are here, and it's showing you like the edit and stuff like that. So this case is not so bad because there's only sort of 4 people here, and it's showing you. If you do have a site with a lot of people, then it ends up you have to sort of scroll up and down. And if you end up having different items on the site with different permissions, so that you have sort of say 3 libraries, and one library everyone can read and only a couple people can edit, and then another library where only 5 people can actually view it, then it can get very complicated because you won't actually see that here. But this is sort of the default kind of sort of view of like, here's the panel, and you can kind of see the people who have access. There are some third-party tools as well that you can use, so you can also investigate that. We're happy to provide direction if you do feel that a third-party tool and SharePoint out of the box doesn't provide what you need.
Okay, perfect. All right. And okay, there's another question here. It says, are you able to notify members of a site or folder if that has changed?
Oh, is there a way to update? Yes. So going back, so many things open here. So basically, in the library itself, you just see these 3 dots here. Along the top, you just select Alert Me. And then you can just say, alert me when items change, who you want to alert. You can also say, so it just will send it by email. You can say all changes or only if there's new items. You can say, send me an alert right away. Oh, sorry, send me anything changes if someone else changes it, or if it's something I've changed or is modified by me. And then you can say, send it right away, send it once a week, send it every day, or send it on a weekly basis. So you can kind of specify when you want to be notified.
Okay, and there's another question here. Does co-authoring work with Excel and PowerPoint?
Yes, it does work with Excel and PowerPoint. It's just sort of easier to demonstrate with Word because it's sort of, the interface is a little bit nicer because it's more of a section where Excel is blocked by itself.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. I think these are all the questions that, that have come up. And, well, I want to thank everyone for joining today. Hopefully you've learned a few tips and tricks for optimizing your SharePoint. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about CRGroup services for SharePoint, including upgrades, diagnosis, portals, intranets, customizations, training, data integration, all these things, we invite you to contact us, and yeah, we'll looking to hear from you. Again, thank you very much, and thank you. Bye.